Hi friends, I hope everyone is doing well. After each collage session, I put the small leftover scraps in this container. It's getting full, so it's time to use these scraps to create new collages. I brought out my 5-inch square art journal to create in for a change of pace, so let's get right into the collaging session. While sorting through the scraps in the container, I'm being mindful to pull light, medium, and dark value papers. I like having all three of these values in collages because it helps with contrast and depth. Also, I chose the light blue scrap with the cutout because it'll add an interesting detail to the collage. With all the collages, I'm challenging myself to glue the scraps in the middle of the page so there's negative space around each collage. I tend to collage to all 4 edges of a substrate. I'm using a glue stick for this collage off camera. I'm leaving some of the collage elements on the substrate but not glued to help me with the placement of the other collage elements. This is especially helpful with the light blue scrap with the cutout. I want to make sure that enough of the collage elements under it will be visible through the cutout. When editing, I realized I didn't use the purple and white paper. I'm not sure how I missed that. I'm guessing that I was in collaging zone and just didn't notice it. I liked using the paper that had a cutout for the last collage, so I want to use 2 for this one. I'm pulling more paper to get a variety of colors. My plan for this collage is to have a horizontal orientation, so a good portion of the papers will show through the cutouts. Again, I'm using a glue stick off camera to adhere the papers to the substrate. I'm being mindful of using light, medium, and dark value papers in a variety of lengths and widths, so the collage will have an interesting design. While collaging, I'm also being mindful that the papers are not touching the edge of the substrate. This is hard for me, but it's a good exercise. As I'm deciding on the placement of the two papers with the cutouts, I noticed that the right edge needs a bit of paper to cover the substrate that's showing through. The collage is reading mostly light to mid-tone, so adding another dark value paper will help balance the look of the collage. I like the placement of the 3 dark value papers. It reads as off-center, which is an interesting design. The very thin piece of dark blue paper adds just the right amount of dark value in the area under the yellow paper. It separates the yellow and orange paper since those are close in color and value. I'm searching for transparent ephemera to use for this collage. This scrap has red acrylic paint on a used tea bag paper. My 2 recent videos were about making and using transparent ephemera. I'm still interested in exploring this type of ephemera in my collage practice. Also, I love using security envelopes in my collage practice. You can find some really interesting patterns. Again, I'm using the glue stick off camera to adhere the majority of the papers to the substrate. As you will see later, I will bring out matte medium to glue the transparent ephemera to the collage. This black scrap was close in width to the blue pattern security envelope, so I decided to remove the smaller stripe. Having collage elements in different sizes and widths makes the collage more interesting to look at. I brought out a stiff bristle brush to apply the matte medium. I'm testing out this brush to see if it works better than a soft bristle brush when applying the matte medium on top of transparent ephemera. I usually like using soft bristle brushes when applying matte medium on top of a magazine image or a glossy paper. Transparent ephemera has a different surface than those 2 papers, so I may need to use a different brush. I want to use transparent ephemera for this collage as well. This time I pulled a scrap of ultra bleeding tissue paper. When choosing the other papers for this collage, I'm thinking of how those papers will look under the ultra bleeding tissue paper. Again, I'm being mindful of choosing light, mid, and dark value papers. Along with deciding on a good design for this collage, I'm thinking about where to place all the papers, so at least part of each will be under the bleeding tissue paper. I will be using a glue stick and matte medium to adhere the collage elements to the substrate. I kept out the stiff bristle brush to see how it will work on ultra bleeding tissue paper. It's delicate and can bend upon itself when applying matte medium. Also, the ink bleeds, so I decided not to put a layer of matte medium down first, then lay the tissue paper on top of it. This time I wanted to put the ultra bleeding tissue paper down first, then apply the matte medium on top of it in a very careful, controlled manner to avoid any bleeding or tearing or folding, also to see if it would minimize the wrinkling. Another collage using transparent ephemera. This time I want to test out this dotted white deli paper. As with the other collages, I want to see if using a stiff bristle brush instead of a soft bristle brush works better when applying the matte medium to this type of ephemera. My plan is to use the white dotted deli paper as an accent detail, so I'm not concerned about the design the collage around it per se. I do want to glue it on top of some of the darker papers. My main goal for this collage is to play around with the different colors and shapes that I don't normally use, pairing torn edge papers with cut edge papers, and always making sure I have light, medium, and dark value papers. I decided that using a sliver of that mid-tone value green is just enough for an accent element on top of the scrap of the old grid paper. An afterthought, I shouldn't have cut away so much of the non-painted section of the deli paper. It would have been a good test to leave it to see if it showed after applying the matte medium with a stiff brush. For this final collage, I want to pull bright colored papers, which is my usual style, but I want to challenge myself to create a negative space design that I haven't used before. Leaving negative space is a challenge for me. I like to cover the whole substrate. I pulled a couple of duplicate pattern papers to give myself options when collaging. Having to leave negative space was a good reminder to incorporate small and very thin sized papers. Since I did pull a large number of papers for the size and design of this collage, it guided me to use a variety of sizes and shapes. It was close, but I do feel that I left enough negative space in the upper right area. This collage session using only leftover scraps provided me with some good challenges. First one is to use papers that have cutouts. The first collage is simple, but I think it was successful. The second collage used a lot of different papers and turned out successfully as well. Next was to use transparent papers to further explore using these type of papers in my collage practice. I think using a stiff bristle brush helped to apply the transparent papers to the collage. I'm happy with the way all three collages turned out. Next was to leave negative space for a collage on a small substrate. This art journal is 5 inches square, so there isn't a lot of room to leave negative space. Also, each collage was created so none of the papers touched the edges of the substrate. Overall, I'm happy with the way each collage turned out. I encourage you to save small leftover scraps, no matter the size or shape, to use in your collage practice. I hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch it. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care.